The evacuation alarms began as a low, mournful hum, vibrating through the crystal spires of Verelian Prime like the planet itself was grieving. Queen Zalithra felt it through her talons before she heard it with her ears. The hum meant failure. Across the Grand Citadel's panoramic windows, the skies burned. Not metaphorically, actually burned. Atmospheric defense arrays collapsed one by one, their brilliant blue shields shattering under the relentless barrage of the Car Dominion's warfleets. Each impact sent shockwaves rippling through the capital city, toppling towers that had stood for 10,000 cycles. Zalithra straightened upon her throne, her iridescent carapace reflecting the chaos outside. She was tall, even by Verelian standards, for meters of regal chitin, crowned with a halo of bioluminescent fronds that pulsed softly in time with her heart. Her guards were gone, not dead.
Gone.
They had fled when the outer gates fell. She did not blame them. The Car were extinction incarnate, void-born conquerors who reduced civilizations to ash and recorded their screams as data. Every species they encountered either submitted or vanished from the galactic record. Verelian Prime had chosen resistance. Now it was paying the price. A holographic counselor flickered to life before her, its image stuttering with interference. "Your Majesty," the projection said, voice trembling, "all evacuation vessels have departed. We regret to inform you there is no remaining extraction vector." Zalithra inclined her head. "You may sever the link, but—" "Go," she commanded softly. The hologram vanished. Silence followed. Not peace, never peace, but a hollow quiet, broken only by distant explosions and the faint hiss of damaged conduits. Zalithra descended from her throne and walked toward the balcony overlooking the city. Fires dotted the landscape like fallen stars. Millions had already escaped, scattering into the dark between galaxies. That was her duty fulfilled. Now came the ending. She extended her sensory fronds, feeling for the approaching Car presence. They were close. Too close. Her mandibles tightened. So this is how a queen dies, she thought. Alone. Unremembered by the stars. A sound echoed behind her. Footsteps. Measured. Heavy. Human. She turned sharply, claws flaring. A figure stood in the shattered doorway of the throne chamber, a biped wrapped in dark combat armor, visor cracked, left arm hanging uselessly at his side. Blood soaked through the seams of his suit, human red stark against the pale floor. He was breathing hard. "Still here?" Zalithra asked, disbelief threading her voice. "You should have fled with the others." The human removed his helmet. His face was scarred, dirt-streaked, one eye swollen shut. But the other eye, brown, steady, met hers without fear. "Couldn't," he said. "Someone had to stay." Zalithra stared. "You are a single soldier. The Car vanguard will breach this citadel within minutes." He gave a tired half-smile.
"Yeah.
I noticed." She studied him, then really studied him. She remembered this one. Commander Elias Rourke. Human liaison. Assigned to Verelian Prime 3 cycles ago, when the Interstellar Accord still believed peace was possible. "You are not Verelian," she said quietly. "Your world does not fall today." Rourke shrugged. "Feels like it does." The floor shook violently as a distant explosion tore through the lower districts. Dust rained from the ceiling. Zalithra stepped closer. "Why are you here, human?" He hesitated. Then, simply, "Because they're coming for you." As if summoned by his words, the air grew cold. Shadows bled across the far wall, coalescing into towering forms of obsidian armor and jagged limbs.
The Car.
They phased through the citadel's defenses like ghosts made of knives. 5 of them materialized first, weapons already charging. Their presence was suffocating, an aura of entropy that made reality feel thin. Selithra's fronds dimmed. Rourke stepped forward. He placed himself between the alien queen and the approaching monsters. Selithra's voice sharpened. Human, move aside.
No.
You will die. He glanced back at her.
Yeah.
The car commander advanced, its voice resonating directly inside their minds. Step aside, mammal. The queen is property of the Dominion. Rourke raised his rifle. Old, scorched, nearly out of power. Property, he echoed. She's not property. The car tilted its head. You are alone. Rourke smiled grimly. Been worse. The first car fired. Rourke dove, rolling across the marble floor as a lance of void energy tore through where he'd stood. He came up firing, his rifle barking defiance. The shots barely scratched car armor, but they slowed them. That was enough. He slammed a charge into the floor and detonated it, collapsing part of the chamber and separating the car unit. The blast threw him into a pillar, bones cracking audibly. Selithra screamed his name, something she had never done for anyone. The car advanced again. Rourke dragged himself upright, coughing blood. His suit's systems screamed warnings in his ear. He ignored them. Your Majesty, he said without looking back, when I say run. She interrupted him. I will not abandon you. He laughed, short and breathless. Figures. Another car lunged. Rourke met it head-on, detonating his last grenade at point-blank range. The explosion shredded the creature, but the shockwave tore through Rourke's armor, sending him skidding across the floor. He didn't get up. The remaining car surrounded him, weapons charging for the kill. Selithra moved. She had ruled through diplomacy, through patience, through the careful balance of power. But she was still Varelian, and Varelians were not weak. Bioluminescent veins flared across her body as she unleashed a psychic scream that shattered the minds of two car instantly. They collapsed, twitching. The commander remained. It turned toward her. You interfere with the inevitable. Selithra planted herself beside Rourke's broken form. Then let inevitability choke on us both, she hissed. The car raised its weapon and froze. A low, unfamiliar sound filled the chamber. Engines. Human engines. The ceiling erupted as dropships punched through the Citadel's upper levels, deploying armored figures in black and gold insignia. The Terran vanguard. The car commander recoiled. Humans do not sacrifice strategic assets for lost causes. A voice boomed from the lead dropship, amplified and furious. Guess you don't know us very well. Dozens of human soldiers poured in, weapons blazing, coordinated with terrifying efficiency. The remaining car were overwhelmed in seconds, torn apart by concentrated fire and kinetic strikes. Silence fell once more. Selithra knelt beside Rourke as medics rushed forward. His chest rose shallowly. Blood pooled beneath him. He opened his one good eye. Hey, he murmured. Told you someone would come. Tears, clear and luminous, spilled from Selithra's eyes onto the floor. You should not have stayed, she said, voice breaking. He coughed. Someone had to remind the galaxy we don't run. Weeks later, the war still raged, but Varelian Prime stood. The footage spread faster than any propaganda ever could. A single human, battered and bleeding, standing alone between an alien queen and annihilation. Other species watched and remembered. Alliances shifted. Worlds that had hidden stepped forward. The Car Dominion, for the first time in its endless conquest, encountered something it had never accounted for. Defiance. Selithra visited Rourke in the medical wing daily as he recovered. When he finally stood again, unsteady but alive, she greeted him not as a subject, but as an equal. You changed the fate of my people, she told him. He shook his head.
Nah.
I just didn't move. She smiled, a rare, radiant thing. In our histories, she said, this day will be recorded. What'll it say? He asked. Her fronds glowed brighter. That when everyone fled, one human stood between a queen and death. And the galaxy was never the same again. Recovery took months. Commander Elias Rourke spent most of them suspended in a medical cradle, bones knitted by nanofilaments, organs rebuilt cell by cell. Human doctors called his survival improbable. Varelian healers called it fate bending under stubborn will. Queen Zelithra visited every cycle. At first, she came in silence, standing beside the transparent cradle while monitors hummed softly. Later, she spoke about the reconstruction of Varelian Prime, about the refugees returning, about the war that had not ended but had undeniably changed. The Kar have withdrawn from 3 systems, she told him one day, her voice low with awe. They do not understand what happened here. Rourke's lips twitched weakly. Good. When he finally woke fully, the news had already spread across the galaxy. Not as a sanitized military report, not as a political statement, but as raw, fractured battlefield footage. A single human, armor broken, standing between an alien queen and annihilation while entire fleets fled. The video was banned by the Kar Dominion within hours. That only made it spread faster. On worlds long cowed by fear, people watched it in underground shelters and whispered something dangerous: hope. Militaries that had once refused alliance calls quietly reopened negotiations. Species that believed humans reckless now began calling them something else: unyielding. When Rourke was strong enough to stand, Queen Zelithra summoned him to the Grand Citadel, no longer shattered, but reforged. The throne chamber had been rebuilt not in crystal alone, but in human alloy and Varelian light weave intertwined. A symbol. The court was full again. Representatives from dozens of species stood shoulder to shoulder, watching as Rourke entered, not as a soldier, but as a witness to history. Zelithra descended from her throne. Before anyone could object, she lowered herself, just slightly, in a gesture of respect rarely given, even among her own kind. Commander Elias Rourke, she said, her voice carrying across the chamber, when fear emptied these halls, you remained. When death came for me, you stood between. The chamber was silent. You did not do this for glory, she continued, nor for reward. You did it because your species does not abandon those it has chosen to protect. Rourke shifted awkwardly. Your Majesty. She raised a claw gently. Let history speak. A massive hologram activated above them, displaying a new galactic charter. An alliance formed not around dominance or fear, but mutual defense. At its center was a single clause, written first in Varelian script, then translated into hundreds of languages. If one falls, all stand. This alliance, Zelithra declared, will be known as the Bastion Compact. And its first guardian, by unanimous accord, will be human. The reaction was immediate.
Shock.
Murmurs. Then applause. Not polite. Not ceremonial. Thunderous. Rourke swallowed hard. I didn't save you alone, he said quietly. Zelithra's eyes softened. No, she agreed. But you reminded us how to save ourselves. Years later, children across the stars would learn the story differently, depending on where they were born. Some said the human defied orders. Some said he acted on instinct. Some said he was simply too stubborn to run. But every version ended the same way. When the car returned, expecting easy prey, they found something new waiting. Human fleets did not arrive first. They arrived with others. Varelian carriers. Kithari strike wings. Heliox dreadnoughts. Species once divided now moved as one, coordinated by human tacticians who treated every allied life as their own. The Car Dominion lost territory, then fleets, then certainty. And in the final recorded transmission before their retreat beyond known space, the Car commander spoke a sentence that stunned every intelligence analyst who heard it. Avoid humans. They do not retreat, and they do not stand alone. On Varelian Prime, a statue was raised at the Citadel's edge. It did not depict a throne. It did not depict a queen. It showed a lone human figure, armor-scarred, standing firm, one hand raised in defiance, the other empty, as if daring the universe itself to try again. At its base were simple words, etched in both Terran and Varelian script. When everyone fled, one human stood. Rourke visited it once. Just once. Zelithra stood beside him, her fronds glowing softly in the twilight. You changed the course of the galaxy, she said. He shook his head slowly.
No.
I just made a choice. She looked out over the stars, no longer silent, no longer afraid. And that, she said, is why the galaxy followed.